I finally made it to a federal prison. How's everybody, all right? I never thought I'd be happy to be in a federal prison before.
Good evening. Welcome to the Mob Museum. My name is Jeff Schumacher. I'm the Senior Director of Content for the museum. For our program tonight, I'm going to have a conversation with Gianni Russo. And then we will, yes. We'll have a conversation, and then I'll give you the opportunity to ask him some questions. So that should be, it's going to be a diverse conversation. It's going to be interesting, and I'm sure your questions will even add to that.
How do you know all that, Jeff? Maybe they're not going to like it, you know.
Nostradamus, we'll see. My guess is that most of you already have a pretty good idea who Mr. Russo is, but for those who do not, here's a quick synopsis. Of course, Gianni is an actor who has appeared in many movies and television shows. Most famously, he played Carlo, the son-in-law of Don Corleone, in The Godfather. He also is a singer who has performed across the country and won awards for doing that. He's also a businessman who has been involved in an array of enterprises, including a very popular restaurant and nightclub in Las Vegas that we will talk about in some detail later. He's also an author. His memoir, Hollywood Godfather, was released about a month ago. Here's the book. And it has reached bestseller status. After this program, Gianni will sign copies of the book in the retail store on the first floor. So be ready for that as soon as we're done here. And I urge you to get a copy of this book because we cannot begin to address everything that's in this book in our talk tonight.
Thank God. We'll be here for hours.
Exactly. Many fascinating moments in his life that are addressed in the book, some of which we will delve into. And finally, and most importantly for our purposes here at the Mob Museum, Gianni Russo is someone who has been, can we say, associated with mob figures over the years in one way or another for much of your life.
I don't know anything.
Some of those intersections with organized crime people will be a focus tonight. Please join me in welcoming Gianni Russo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Real treat to have you here tonight. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, really. I mean, to be invited to come back to Vegas this way, fortunately. And I know most of you are surprised that I wrote a book, because I can't even spell my name, but I did. And more important, the book came out, which I'm very proud of, March 12th, and it was a bestseller in 2 weeks. So I have to thank you for that.
So I thought we would talk about different things that I've selected that we can talk about during the course of Gianni's life. And we'd start at the beginning, which is where I like to start. So you're growing up in Little Italy in Manhattan and going to work as a courier for Frank Costello. That's not a small thing. Can you tell us about how that got started?
Well, the most important part of my life that I wanted to stress in the book was in today's, I mean, I have, fortunately, 11 children, 9 boys, 2 girls, 9 grandsons, and we seem to be living in a privileged lifestyle. And these kids think they should be compensated rather than go out and earn. Right. So when I decided to write the book, because the beginning of my life, which mostly, I don't think anyone here knows this, in 1949 I got polio, and I was confined for 5 years in Bellevue in New York City, quarantined. So, and why I want to stress that is because I've had every dream in the world, and I have to say, I've accomplished them, which is insane to think. And this was one of them I always wanted to do. And the message, the last sentence in the book is, yes, you can. So the book is not a self-praising book at all. In fact, there's a lot of, as you know, hard times and good times. But I think that's what life's about. And a lot of us are missing that, unfortunately. And so that was the message. And the last sentence in the book, when I say, yes, you can, because if I could do it, anybody could do it, believe me. And I did it, I think. And what I've, without education, without coming from family money, that was the message. And so I think once you start to read it, And I hear this constantly all over the world right now, because the book came out now in London, it's in Australia, and I've been doing television all over the world, and I'm hearing from people that they laughed with me, they cried with me, and that was what I wanted to do. So saying that, when I left that hospital, I had to take care of myself. I didn't want to go back home. I was very angry at my family because they never showed up. Now understand, I was 7.5 years old, 1949, and my birthday is in December. So I thought for sure they'll come to my birthday, and they didn't show up. So I had a lot of things going on in my world where I could have went 10 different ways. So I picked the 10 that I really wanted to do, and I did them. But the thing that I learned from it is that believe in yourself and go do it. And so I wanted to take advantage of my affliction. See, the whole left side of my body was not mobile for about 2 years. And then when I got the strength again, I took advantage of it, and I started selling ballpoint pens. And that's how the relationship with Costello came. Because I was there, and the ballpoint pens just came out, and I totally exhausted Wall Street with these pens. And I'd start to go there, because that's when people got paid with cash in an envelope. So I went to the Marine Midland Bank, and I talked to Mr. Pinto. I said, Mr. Pinto, can you give me the schedules of when these people get paid? So he thought maybe I wanted to rob them. I said, no, I just want to know. I said, he's talking to, at that time I was 12. And I said, this is my idea. And he thought it was brilliant. So he introduced me to this guy called Leo Rabinowitz, who was a client of the bank. And he had a stationery store, and that's how I got the pens. So I started going, and every week, and then I got to certain desks. I didn't even have to say anything to them. They would just open the drawer and show me the pens and the typewriter erasers that they bought and never used yet. So that's when I took the business uptown. And I took the N train, and I got off at 59th Street and 5th Avenue and turned my life around. And a man called Frank Costello, which, I almost got tears in my eyes when I walked in there this afternoon. There's a big picture of Frank Costello while he was on trial in New York, and they had trials in this very room when they were doing that whole Kefauver commission. And the interesting thing about Frank, he never wanted any of us photographed. And for years, my name was the kid. We're sending the kid. We're sending the kid. In fact, I was just in Sicily recently, and one of the old men I used to see, he's in his 90s now, he said to me, "You look good, kid." And Mr. Costello, during the time of doing this, he never took a pen. Every morning he'd walk past me, give me $1, sometimes $5. And that was a lot of money, in the 50s. And never took a pen. And then we started talking, and he asked me my last name, and he said, "Who's Angelo Russo to you?" I said, "Angelo Russo? Angelo Russo is my great uncle from Sicily. When's the last time you saw him?" I said, "Is this a trick question?" He said, "Why?" I said, "My uncle was hung in 1947. So then he realized I didn't know who they were. And unbeknownst to me, my uncle and my great-great-grandfather sent Gambino, Frank Costello, and...
Lucky Luciano?
Who?
Lucky Luciano? No.
Who, Jeff?
Luciano?
Yeah, I was going to say... you threw me off. I was going to say, how does he know who my uncle sent?
It's in the book.
Lucky Luciano, it's in the book. So, again, I didn't know any of this. I'm a kid that came out of a hospital, and so he offered me a job as a messenger. And that's all I did for years. And then I started coming here, actually, in 1959 for him, when they had the Sands Hotel and the Trop. I didn't know that he and Joe Kennedy owned the Tropicana Hotel together. And they had a piece of Cal Neva. So my whole life, I have to say, because of this guy in my relationship, because of him, I met other people in the family and the mob, or whatever you want to call it. Oh, we should say mafia, right? This is their museum. Did they ever think they could have a museum? I love it.
When you say you delivered messages, that was how it started, but
Yeah.
you started delivering some other things.
No, then as they started to understand that I was responsible, one thing about me, if you tell me to be at 11 o'clock, I'm there at 11 o'clock. And that's the thing he said to me. You don't do this no more. I said, what am I going to do? He said, I want you to do the errands for me. I said, okay. And he gave me 3 $100 bills. Because he went for he said, Blackie, take that cigar box from him. I said, you ain't taking my box, because I had my pens in there and my money. He gave me $300 bills. I was like, today, maybe $3,000. Yeah. And he says, you don't do this no more. He said, you know where the Waldorf is? I said, everybody knows where the Waldorf is. He's in the lobby. There's a clock. Sit under that clock, 11 o'clock, and wait for me to come. It's okay. And I did that. And then I moved on to other places. But the last time I met him was in 1973, 2 weeks before he died. That's how long I was around this guy. And nobody knew that. I was nothing I came to Vegas with and bragged about, because those kind of people, if they wanted to be known, they would let themselves be known. And that's the one thing they respected. I kept my mouth shut and did what I was supposed to do.
Obviously, you're known as a dapper dresser. It sounds like you got to start with Costello. He insisted you upgrade.
Well, yeah, I mean, the guy used to send me to Layton's, and then we moved on to Brioni. And it's a good way to learn. And D. Martin taught me to wear these slippers, and they're the greatest shoes in the world. So everybody helped me and contributed. And I still think I dress okay, though.
No, I think so.
76 years old, I'm here.
So some of those, eventually, as your responsibilities expanded with Frank Costello, you were taking trips to Las Vegas.
Yeah, I
carrying money or bringing money back.
Well, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know there was money in there. And when they put me in the cage, I thought I was going to take out, I don't know, sandwiches or something. I don't know. But, you know, we would sometimes even drive. The money was big money. We'd drive to Chicago first, and they would lighten the load, and then we'd come on to New York. But I did that for years and years and years. And fortunately, again, nobody knew what I was doing in Vegas. And then I started opening like Gianni Russo wig whirls and.
But you were just a
jewelry
kid
stores.
when this started, right?
Yeah.
When you started doing this courier work, they didn't suspect you because what? You're 16 or?
Oh no! When I started carrying the big money, I was like 17, 18.
17.
Yeah. But I mean, like $1 million. But then that went into, when you read in the book, it was calculated that just with the Vatican, we did $800 million. Oh my God!
Goodness gracious!
I don't know where that money is now, but.
I don't want to wait too long to get to The Godfather because I think that's the real centerpiece of our
The
conversation.
movie or the real guy?
Well, we talked about the real guy, right? There's a real interesting story as to how you got your role in The Godfather, and I thought if you could talk about that.
Oh, that's a fun story.
There's a couple parts to it, and you were interested in the role, and then you figured out how to get it.
Well, anybody that knows me, I have an ego bigger than this building. And I always wanted to be an actor. And I was making good money. And it was hard for me because I couldn't show anybody my money because then they'd want to know where I got it. And then I had a bigger problem. So when I came out here, I was just doing what I did very quietly. And then I remember I did a show. They asked me to do breakfast at the Boulevard Mall. And I said, oh, I'll do that. And then I had a jewelry store right across the street at the time. And I got that financed by people in New York. And the guy's still alive yet. I can't believe it. And Norman Landsberg, he's still on 66, 47th Street. And all I did was buy showcases down here in the antique stores. We did them. And I opened Russo and Costello Jewelers. And I took everything on consignment. And that's how I started this. And why I'm bringing this story up, that's when they had the ad in the newspaper saying that The book is in its 5th print, the Godfather book. And they were going to use Sicilians to be Sicilians, Jewish lawyers to be Jewish lawyers. And I was doing this radio show, then went to a television show. I was doing my own commercials. I had Gianni Russo Wig Worlds on Charleston Boulevard and all that. And so I took that camera crew, and it started here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I shot a test for Michael, Sonny, and Carlo, and submitted it to Paramount, only to get a letter saying that we are sorry we misled you, you went to great expense, but we're really using great actors. But again, as my life would be, Joe Colombo started picketing the FBI building in New York. And I knew Joe Colombo. And even Jasper, who had the Tower of Pizza on the Las Vegas Boulevard, we were all selling these little buck of buttons. They would send us these boxes to sell. It was $1 for a red, white, and green little flag button. So I came up with the idea. I said, I'm going to go see Joe. So I go see Joe. I fly into JFK, and I go right to 86th Street to his club. I said, you're really missing something here. He said, what? I said, you're picketing this thing. You're picketing the FBI building, and they all called him in already, Gambino, everybody. I said, what are you, crazy? And they wanted him to stop. I said, Joe, you have an opportunity here to make a lot of money. He says, how? I said, why don't you read the script or have somebody read it, and what you don't like in the script, let them change it. And if they change it, cooperate with them. And he says, how are we going to make money? I said, we're going to make money because if you agree to let the unions cooperate, get the locations, then I'm going to ask them to give you the world premiere in every city. I had one here in Charleston, 1972. We had one of the world premieres of The Godfather in this town. Anybody here remember that? I guess you came after the witness protection program. But anyway, no, and it was great that we did it, but that's how I got the part, because then we go to the meeting at the Gulf and Western building, and I told him, bring everybody you could bring. So he brought the real guy, Lenny Montana, he brought Butter Chico, and when they went to the 33rd floor, Bobby Evans and Stanley Jaffe, the heads of Paramount, they thought they were seeing the real cast of The Godfather. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to intimidate them.
Gianni, before you finish, I think we should just clarify exactly for those who aren't clear what was happening here. So there was a great concern among Italian Americans in New York that The Godfather was going to stereotype Italians, that there were going to be negative references to Italian Americans. And Joe Colombo, ironically, was the head of this organization, and he did not want there to be these. He was basically protesting the making of The Godfather because he feared that it was going to negatively stereotype Italians as being in the Mafia and so forth, although he was the head of one of the biggest families in New York. Okay,
it was so ridiculous. But
so there's a big meeting.
So with that said, we have the meeting, and they went through the script, and they agreed, and they were just break it up. So I said to Joe, Joe, what about me? So he raised his hand, and all of them sat down again. And they said, what are you going to do for my boy here? He said, well, we're going to give him a part. I said, let me explain something to you. I said, this would not be happening if I didn't bring this guy here. You're not going to give me a part. I heard about you Hollywood people. I'm playing Michael, Sonny, or Carlo. So they said to me, it's something you may not know. Michael was cast, and it was James Caan as Michael originally. Sonny was Carmine Caridi. He was a big Broadway actor doing The Man from La Mancha, but he was a big guy, and the Hollywood people thought it should be a big guy. So I said to them, who's playing Carlo? They said, nobody. I said, Joe, can I play Carlo? He tells them he's playing Carlo. That's how I got the part. That was 50 years ago. It's 48 years, the movie. Yeah. I read the book 50 years ago.
Yeah.
That's why I released the book. Nobody wanted to know why. They offered me different times to release the book. I said, if we can, let's release it in March. March 12th was the 48th anniversary of Godfather 1. And March 10th was the 50th anniversary of the book.
That's right.
So it worked, because that's how everybody said, how are you getting all these TV shows? Well, it's across marketing.
Right.
And I took advantage of it.
No acting experience up to that point.
I've been acting all my life. No acting experience. In fact, Brando almost got me fired for that reason.
Well, I was going to ask that. So you come to the set of The Godfather, and one of your first issues is you've got to deal with Marlon Brando.
Well, again, never being an actor and never had a call sheet in my life. They send a call sheet telling me where to be. And fortunately, they picked 119th Street up in Harlem. And it was Fat Tony Salerno's place called Patsy's. It was open 24 hours a day. And I used to go up there a lot because they had Ziganet games. And I used to do overnight loans that say, bring them 5,000, bring them 6,000. I'd go up there and have pizza. So they all knew me. And most of you know me, I hope. I know Mr. Tiberto knows me and all that. But I always had great cars, Bentleys and Ferraris and whatever. So I bought my first Bentley in 1965. So I had it in New York. And so I'm going up there, I'm dressed. And these people, these actors and thespians, coming in like my gardener dressed better than them. Their hair is all filthy, they're dirty. And they're coming up in station wagons that the Teamsters drive you around. So I said, I know where to go, I'll get up there. But on the bottom of the call sheet, they said, do not have eye contact or approach Brando. It's okay. So now we have our first break. And we just read, and the one thing, they had a lot of food on the table. And Coppola said to the Italians, exaggerate all your mannerisms, because we need the non-Italians to become Italian in the next week. And it's true, because James Caan was Jewish, Marlon Brando's Polish. So we did all of this. So now the first break, Marlon Brando came walking over to me. And I'm saying, well, I ain't breaking the rules. He's coming to me. So he comes to me, he says, you're a big TV actor. I said, no. He said, you got a movie coming out. I said, no. He said, well, you're not on Broadway. I know everybody on Broadway. I said, you're right again. He said, who'd you study with? I said, study what? With this, he calls Coppola over. He says, Francis. And I didn't break down the script. I was just happy to be there. He says, this guy's got to be a great actor. And I'm listening to this guy. He says, he marries my daughter. He undermines my family to the Barzinis. He gets my oldest son, Sonny, killed. My son, Michael, has to flee the country. He brought him into this thing. You got to rethink this. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, this guy's going to get me fired. And I just had a party in the neighborhood, and I told them I was doing this, and they said, get out of here, Johnny, come on. And I'm saying to myself, if this guy gets me fired, I can't go back to the neighborhood. They'll never believe me again. Right. So now, and I don't know protocol on the set. So I said, Francis, go over there a minute. You can't dismiss the director. You're an actor. And he left because he knew how I got the job. So the other sacrilege I did, I put my arm on Brando, and I said, come over here, I want to talk to you. Because I wanted to get him out of earshot, because I didn't want them to hear what I was going to tell this guy. But I was boiling at this point. So I take him to the corner. I said, let me tell you something, Mr. Brando, out of all due respect. You get me fired. You hear what I'm telling you? I'm going to suck on your heart. You will bleed out here in this room. He stepped back. He said, that was brilliant. You could act. That's how I got my acting job. And I was with Brando till he died. I mean, the guy was so great. I put him in The Freshman. I don't know if you saw that movie. I love Brando. Brando was a great guy.
You ended up becoming good friends with him.
Oh, my God. I'm the only person in the world that could say this. Marlon Brando taught me acting. Frank Sinatra taught me how to sing. And Marilyn Monroe made me a man. Not too bad.
So you had a good relationship with Marlon Brando on the set. Not so much with James Caan.
Well, Jim, at first I didn't know whether Jimmy, they say these thespians take on these characters and they never get out of character. So for the longest time, I thought Jimmy had a button. I thought he was really a made guy. He's a Jewish kid. He knows nothing about nothing. And he was acting like Jimmy Caan all the time. It's okay. But one night, we're out. It's a very interesting piece of the book also. And the names I'm about to mention to you, you'll know some of them. We're at Jilly's on 52nd Street. It was a watering hole everybody went to. We're already into two or three weeks of shooting. So Jimmy comes from the back room, and I'm standing there with Tommy Bilotti. You may know the name. He got shot down with Paul Costello in front of Sparks. He was his bodyguard. And he was my best man at my first wedding. And the other guy was Boozy DeChico, an underboss to the Gambino family. So Jimmy comes over. He don't know who they are. And he says, Gianni, Junior's in the back, meaning Carmine Persico. And this guy was a tough guy. He was an underboss in the Colombo family. And I knew him for years just from being in New York. He says, he's back there with his daughter. Why don't you come back and say hello? I said, all right, I'll be there. I excused myself, and I went back there. We hug and kiss and do the stuff we normally do. And I look at the girl, and I said, Junior, your daughter is gorgeous. And as soon as I said that, his face twisted. And I said, uh-oh, because I know this guy's nuts. Well, he was doing 136 years when he died 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So I said, let me out of here. So I go, and I go down to the restroom. Here comes two of Junior's guys. Thank God Tommy Bilotti caught the move that they came down after them. So I'm going to I'm standing at a urinal, and one of his guys come behind me. They say, hey, wise guy. I said, what do you mean wise guy? I'm going to the bathroom. He said, you heard what you said to Junior. I said, what did I say? And just as that happened, Tommy Bilotti, because the other guy was blocking the door, Tommy Bilotti punches the door and grabs this guy and smashes his head on the sink. Now, the other guy's standing there, and he said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to teach him a lesson. He said, you're going to teach him a lesson? He knocks this guy right out. Now, Boozy's standing there. He said, let's go upstairs and talk to Junior. Because, see, Boozy DeChico was the only one that could talk to Junior because they both made guys, different families. So they go into the kitchen in back of Jilly's. Next thing, they call Jimmy Caan in. Jimmy Caan wasn't there 2 minutes. I hear 2 smacks in the face. Pa, pa. Then they come and get me. So I go in there, and Junior tells Jimmy, he says, you know, Jimmy, I can't believe you set this kid up like this. He says, well, I was only kidding. He smacks him again. He says, well, you want to be in the mob? You're going to get a lesson tonight. See this guy here, Mr. DeChico? He says, yeah, you now belong to him. Jimmy said, what? He said, well, you want to know about the mob? We made a decision tonight. You're wrong. They could do anything they want with you. Tommy Bilotti wanted to kill him that night. I said, Tommy, don't kill him tonight. We're 3 weeks into the film. They'll never finish the film.
But Caan had set you up because he made it seem like that was his daughter, and
I know, it was his girlfriend.
Yeah.
You probably picked up on that already. It was his girlfriend. And when I went there, I'm saying, your daughter looks great. So he set me up. This guy would kill you for less than that. And the funniest thing, I had to wait to release this book. I waited about 10 years for different people to die because I talk about everybody. But the last guy who didn't die was Junior. And Junior's arm he got 139 years, seriously. And March 10th, you can look him up. March 7th rather. March 7th, he died. I said, thank God, because my book's coming out in 5 weeks, 5 days. That's the kind of luck I have, man.
So it's another part of the James Caan story is the sort of very famous scene where Sonny kind of puts a beating on Carlo. And how did that all play out on the set?
Well, we choreographed it. You remember that scene, that fight scene? No, I mean, first time I'm an actor. I don't know what's going to happen. So we go rehearse it. And, you know, everybody had their own color tape. So when I step off the stage, I had to hit my mark so the cameraman could film all this. So we choreograph it for a day, no problems. Next day, we're going to shoot it. So the first thing, I'm up on the porch, and I can remember the line. I looked down, I said, stop taking any more action on the Yankees, we're upside down. And then here comes the car. Jimmy comes, and he throws a billy club at me. There was no billy club in the other rehearsals. And this guy must have been a baseball player because he popped it right off my head. And I fall behind the car. Next time you watch that scene, you'll see me go down behind the car. They cut, they come and see me. I had a cut on my head, not swollen yet. I said, well, no, let's keep going. I want to, this is a great scene, let's go. So then we run from behind the car. That's when he grabs me, turns me over the rail. Then he gets to steal old garbage pail cover, and I'm padded. But he's hitting me with such force, not like in the rehearsal. He chipped my elbow. And now I'm saying, I got to crawl out here. What's going to happen when I crawl out of here? Because the day before, as soon as he touched my chest with his shoe, I took and rolled over. Well, this time I crawl, he lifted me up and broke 2 ribs. So now I got a head, an elbow, 2 broken ribs, and I'm rolling in the gutter. And I made a decision, a career decision that day. I said, I'm never doing a fight scene again. From now on, love scenes. I thought this is what happens in acting, but only to find out he was trying to send me a message now that he's a tough guy. But it was a good scene, though. I still don't like that missed punch. They could have fixed that. I reacted to punches over here. You must have seen that, right? But 25 years later, I'm with Coppola, and we had the anniversary, and they had the same punch in. I said, why didn't you cut that punch? Because I knew they were shooting from the ceiling, every angle. They had another angle. I found out something about film history. Once it won 5 Oscars, you can't, it's like trying to put a smile on the Mona Lisa's face. You can't touch the negative. So that'll stay forever. Even my grandchildren said, Papi, he didn't hit you, why'd you move?
So there's a lot of good scenes, great scenes in the movie, but another one we have to talk about is when you die.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, how did that get set up?
Well, that to me was the only acting I did in the whole movie. The rest of the movie, it was violent, and I was reacting. And again, thank God to Brando, because he was worried about it. And I was allowed in his makeup room, which is about 3 hours a day, with Dick Smith, while they made him into Don Corleone. And he used to talk to me about the script. He said, now, understand this. You've never done this before in your life. He said, you know you're going to die. You read the script. You know you're going through the windshield. You know all that stuff. He said, but how is the audience going to know that you don't know? That's what he's talking about. They're going to read you. You just can't fake this. I said, what should I do? He said, well, I'm going to give you some pointers. And he brought Pacino in. He said, Al, when you hand him the ticket, take a beat, because Johnny's going to lower it and sneak the look to see maybe I'm really getting away. Because the audience, you're going to be 18 feet, 9 foot by 18 feet. It's on you. And if they don't see this, and I've never acted before, but I figured I got to make this work. And because of his leadership, Brando, and he wasn't on the set that day. When he came on the set, everybody was going crazy. Who told him to come to work today? He came to help me. Came to Staten Island and helped me do that scene. So that's why, bravo, Mr. Brando, thank you. Because that was my only scene that really was acting.
There's some interesting special effects in the car. Like, how did that work, whether you sit in the front seat?
Well, Francis wanted the realism, and anybody that has even antique cars, those windshields had a big, thick sheet of plastic in them. That was the safety glass at that time. There's no human being in the world could break that window with your leather loafers. Can't do it. So they tried scoring it. That didn't work because the camera was mounted on the hood of the car, and they were operating it because when the scene that they actually used, the last scene, is when my foot goes through the windshield and I die in the car. But that was all of that. So they finally gave me lead shoes and to knock out the window. And that's why I stopped wearing socks. I still have glass in my shoes. And, but it,
what about the garroting? How did they do that?
Oh, that's easy. Everybody asks about that. Because once I got in the front seat and Clemens was in the back, he says, hello, Carlo. And then when he goes for the garrote, there was a strap behind my jacket. And all I do is push myself up with it. So once my back was on the top of the seat, he was just holding me in place to get out the window. That's what that was about, though.
Gotcha. So,
Are my answers too long for you guys?
I don't think so.
No, I'm just saying. You know.
So, you finished shooting. This is a big movie. What impact did the success of The Godfather have on you and your life?
It's still impacting my life.
Right immediately after.
I don't know. I speak to who I am. This is who I am. I don't know what I would be without this movie today. I think about it all the time. I mean, what I've achieved because of this movie, I don't know if you know this, but I went on to make 47 other movies. I produced 16 of them. They won 9 Oscars totally, the movies. You know, I did Seabiscuit, Any Given Sunday, Striptease. I mean, you go, and Family Man. These are all great movies. And my little grandchildren, because I love these, I got 9 grandsons. I put the residuals in a trust for them, a living trust. So my oldest kid's like 14. And we all know on the holidays, they run The Godfather like a marathon. And at the end of the weekend, it's Poppy, you know how much money we made this weekend?
All right, so let's go back to Las Vegas. So it's 1978 now, several years after The Godfather. You've made some other movies. But you have an idea to build a hotel in Las Vegas called the Renaissance Hotel. 650 rooms.
That's how crazy I was.
What was the thinking there? And how did it play out?
Well, you know, everybody, I mean, and the good news, I mean, Tony Marnell, we all know him. And Tony Marnell was my architect. And that's before he became partners with Lud Correo. And that then became Marnell Correo. And nobody knows this story about Tony Marnell. I knew Tony Marnell his father built the wall around Jack and Trotter's pool at the Sands Hotel. He was a mason, an absolute mason. And I Italian guy, and the kid was a brilliant architect, and he did the designs for the Renaissance. And I could say it now because statute of limitations was over. But I took so much money out of the Vatican, it was ridiculous. So it was hard to get it here, but I got it here. And I arranged for a loan through Salt Lake. And a kid called Brad Panos, whose family was very wealthy. And we dribbled it into him. He became my partner. And then Richard Tam, you probably all know Richard Tam, people who lived here forever. He owned Tam Drive. He created the dollar stores in California and came here, and he owned a lot of land. So the land that's on Harmon and Culver Lane and Flamingo, I took a 99-year lease on it. And then Jimmy Carter became president. And thank God he became president, because I'm going to tell you why, and he knows why. Jimmy Carter became president. Construction money went to 19% interest. So Ernst & Young called me and they said, Gianni, you'd have to have a 91% occupancy just to service your debt. You should rethink this. But I was already trying to rethink how am I going to get out of this deal, because I'll tell you why. The feds just wiretapped Kansas City. And my good friend Ned Day, who was always trying to bury me, he put the transcript of the FBI of me talking to Corky Savella, Luke, all these major guys, and I borrowed $32 million from them in the team suspension. They were waiting for me to withdraw the first dollar. I would have been doing 12 years in Leavenworth. But I said, you know what? Again, I got a message from the Lord, as we got to pull the plug. I negotiated with Richard Tam. I said, Richard, give me a moratorium on the payments. I was paying $50,000 a month for the land, with an option to purchase it after 5 years and at the fair market value. So with that, I said, Richard, let's cease the payments until I restart construction. He's good. I got all the land in the world. And I had a brilliant attorney. Is he in here? Jeff Silver in the room tonight?
I think he might be at the hockey game.
Oh, yeah. All my friends are at the hockey game. Wait till they want to call me again. Anyway, so I said, Jeff, you draw up the lease, the extension on the lease, and the amendments to it. And he said, what date should I put in? I said, don't put a date in. He said, what are you talking about? I said, just don't put a date. I said, when I start construction, I'll start paying the $50,000. He said, he ain't gonna let that happen. I said, I know Richard Tam too well. He was always cheap. So, and he loved Jeffrey Silver. Jeffrey Silver just left the Gaming Commission at the time, and he was a very honorable guy. So he read it, and he signed the lease. That's why that land is still tied up over there. It can't go nowhere. Everybody's, why is that land still there? Hello.
For those who don't know, Jeff Silver was on the Gaming Commission and Gaming Control Board, and he's now the chairman of the board of the Mob Museum, so among other things. 1981, though, okay, so Renaissance is not going to happen. You decide you want to do business in Las Vegas. You open a restaurant and a nightclub. What happened?
Well, the
there?
interesting thing, Tony Marnell was remodeling the Sands Hotel. Mm-hmm. And he was very proud of it. He was taking me there, showing me the fabrics they were using. I said, Tony, I got nothing to do. I want to do something here now. So he said, okay. So I looked at Macavernia's in the Sahara Mall. I forget what they called that mall at the time. And I looked at it, but I didn't want to have a classy restaurant in a strip mall. So I opened it on the back street. I went out the back door. There was nothing on that street. 1 block from Karen to Sahara. And I looked up. It was like an omen. State Street. I said, that's it. I'm going to call it Gianni Russo State Street. I put clean containers of garbage out there, put graffiti on the walls. So when you made that turn off of Karen or Sahara, you thought you were going into a seedy area, which only lent to me having the locked door, which was, I don't know how I could tell you that story, because you're not allowed to have a locked door. Especially your slots. I mean, you all realize none of these hotels have locks on their doors.
Right.
So I wanted that. It was one of my things I wanted. So I found a loophole in their law. So I'm here going for my gaming license. And I said, Your Honor, I mean, not the chairman of the city council. I said, can I approach the council off the record, please? And Jeffrey Silver said, why are you doing this? I said, I got an idea. And I wouldn't tell him because he's so squeaky clean. I said, I'm looking at a couple of things here. First of all, I'm only Italian-American is going to hold a license in this town, if you give it to me. Secondly, I really am looking for a locked door situation. And I found out that, and I understand why there's no locks on the door, because all the inspectors have to have access. Well, I did my homework. And you have 87 inspectors. And I had a bag with me. I says, here's 87 keys to the front door. They all have access. And they gave me the license. You've come there. We used to have the meetings there. The Italian-American meetings. It was funny.
So
but I had a locked
Street,
door.
What was it like? That was a hot place in 83, 84.
I thought so. I mean, I had a lot of fun there.
What was it like?
Well, I liked it because I did another gimmick. I called on Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis. They did my first radio commercials, and we really weren't opening. I emptied my garage and parked all my cars on the street, but we weren't open. We were just testing everything, and people would call, sorry, we're sold out, sorry, we're sold out. There was nobody in the building. And I forgot who, he was the mayor. Yeah, he was the mayor. No, the governor.
Governor.
His father had what was his name? I was not good friends with him. His father had a big store in the same shopping mall I was. Anybody remember? Anybody?
I'm trying to, this would have been not Richard Bryan.
This was 7. Who?
Jan Jones.
No. Well, anyway. No, he called me. I don't know who it was, but he called me. He said, I can't get a reservation. I want to come tonight. I said, you want to come tonight? We're testing food. I said, what are you talking about? I said, we were testing the menu. He says, the place is packed. We can't get in. I said, there's nobody in here. Come and have dinner with us. Bob. His first name was Bob.
Bob List?
Who?
Bob List? Probably Bob List.
No.
At that time, no?
Anyway, who cares?
No.
Bob Miller. No, it wasn't Bob Miller. No. Anyway, but that's
It's okay.
I mean, that started. And then, you know, my idea was to serve gourmet food because that's when Vegas had, you know, celebrities in showrooms, 2 shows a night. And at 1:30, 2 o'clock, by the time you left anybody's dressing room, you could only go, because of the unions, you could only go to coffee shops. So that's when I opened till 6 in the morning, gourmet food. And the place became a hot spot for 8 years. We know that. And Arlene is saying, didn't you start as a cocktail waitress first, though? Or you were too young? I know that. I forgot. I had so many gorgeous girls, you being one of them, fortunately. And that's one thing. Anybody went to State Street, everybody was pretty. The men were pretty. Everybody was pretty. But Arlene, after all these years, she was my DJ at State Street. Wow. You believe that? 42 years.
And you performed yourself there in the evening.
I performed just, again, my own ego.
Yeah.
And that became a problem because everybody used to come late at night. So Don Rickles was at the Riviera yet. I didn't know the move that they made, that Sinatra made for him. And so he comes and joins Sinatra's table, and I'm on stage singing with my trio. It's my club, I can do what I want. And Rickles makes the mistake and says to Frank, he says, you know, this kid don't sound too bad. So I get off stage, and I go there, and Frank says, Don Rickles really likes your singing. He says, get me a phone, because I had phone jacks everywhere. So I got him a phone, and we got him a line, and he dialed somebody. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know who he's talking to. He said, I'm here at State Street with Rickles and Johnny and everybody, and Rickles loves the way this guy sings. He said, you know what we're doing together? He said, I want Johnny to be Rickles' opening act. He's given $3,000 a week. Rickles almost fell off the chair. He paid his opening act $600, $700. And some unknown singer, he ain't paying him no money. And that's when Don Rickles came downtown to the Golden Nugget. I was his opening act, the Golden Nugget. And I stayed with him for a year on the road, which I got into show business.
Amazing.
So started my singing career.
So there was an unfortunate incident that happened at the State Street. A lot of people will remember if you lived here. And that was where you had an unruly patron, shall we say. How did
Is that what you call him? An unruly patron?
October 30th, 1988. What happened?
I had house accounts from the casinos, because when they had big players that didn't want to go coffee shop, they would send them to me, which I loved. And so they sent this car down. I had a car, and pick up this guy, and he comes in, and he's giving $100 bills to everybody walking in. And he goes to a nice table. He starts with a bottle of Cristal, pate, beluga caviar. I love this guy already. He's in $1,000. He didn't sit down yet. He gets into an argument with his date. He breaks the Cristal bottle and sticks it in her face. So now I'm at the bar. In fact, Betty was at the bar. I said, Betty, give me your phone. I called the front door. And who was at the front door was Steve Sharippa, because he was going to UNLV, and he was in a tuxedo. I said, Steve, we got a problem on 7. He said, I know, boss. I said, well, get over it. He said, I ain't going over. That guy's nuts. I'm saying to myself, look at this giant in a tuxedo. He ain't going over. So I go over, because I didn't know who the guy was, and the girl was bleeding. I mean, thank God he missed her eye. So I go over to the guy. I said, sir, I don't know who you are, but you hear those sirens? They're coming here for you. So I don't want any problems. Why don't you just leave and let me take it to the hospital? Because Sunrise was right down the block. He said, no, man. I said, what do you mean, no, man? And I didn't know he had, you can laugh. I did. Anyway, I didn't know he still had the bottle in his hand, but because he had it low. So he reaches for the girl, and he swings around. Fortunately, I was agile enough that I went back, lest he would have cut my throat. He cut my chin. I got 82 stitches. And now, anybody that really knows me, the blood's coming all over my new shirts. I waited 6 months for these shirts. Sea Island cotton shirts. I was more pissed that my shirt was screwed up. I said, look what you did to my shirt. And this guy's looking at me saying, who's crazy, me or this guy? And thank God for Jack Weinstein. He made me 2 Derringers, American Arms. Remember they used to come in the belt buckles, the little 5 shots? So he gold plated them, and I had a vest on. I love this thing. And so now I'm saying, what am I going to do here? So I put the gun to his head. I said, let me tell you something. Either you're going out here now on your own, or you're going out in a black bag. He said, F you. I said, really? I put 2 right in his head. And I'm looking at him. And he's got a hole in his head. And the guy ain't going down. I'm saying, it may be only a couple of seconds, but I knew I shot him in the head. That's when I made a decision to get a bigger caliber gun, number one. But the coroner told me later he was so high on coke that it took him longer to close down, and finally he fell. And I learned another lesson, that when the paramedics came, they took care of him first. I said, how about the girl? He said, no, he's the most traumatized. I said, I don't know who even the guy is. How about the lady? They had to wait, get another ambulance to get him out first. Then they took her. I went with Coots. John Moran was the sheriff. Thank God I got him on the phone right away. I said, John, I had an accident. He said, I heard already. Between him, Bobby Miller, that's who it was. Okay. I remember. They met me the next day. I'm all bandaged up. And they said, John, we're getting phone calls off the wall. I said, what do you want me to do? I went to the ladies' rescue. And thank God for Hank Greenspun. He called me up and he said, Johnny, we got to put a spin on this right away. And for you who don't know who Greenspun is, Hank Greenspun was one of the founders of this town, owned the Sun newspaper, a gentleman of gentlemen. I said, what do you want to do? He said, let's have a press conference. Are you okay to have it? I said, yeah. 5 o'clock, we call a press conference at State Street. And it was his brilliance. We had the chalking on the floor where the guy was taken out. It was a crime scene. They had the tape around it. And he had somebody interview me. And I said, I went to this ladies' rescue. I didn't know who this guy was, because they were already saying it's a love triangle. I'm dealing drugs, and they were going to destroy me. It was his brilliance. I told the whole story. And for you who remembered, and you mentioned the date, October 28, 1988, a month later, December 12th, they named the day, December 12th, Gianni Russo Day, because I went to the ladies' rescue, not in the police force, and they gave me a great honor. John Gotti sends me a letter, I guess he wanted his warden to read it, saying, I never killed anybody, I'm here doing 8 years, and look at you, they're giving you a dinner. That's why I had to write the book. I got to tell people the stories. They're crazy. Are you enjoying yourself so far? No, it's a great opportunity. I mean, for me to come back to Vegas, I love Vegas. I had 30 years of my life here. I have children living here. I mean, I still have houses here yet. People thought I was in real estate. I just had too many mothers to my kids. I had to buy them houses.
Why don't we throw it open for some questions from the audience? Now, where we're going to do this is you'll raise your hand, and we're going to bring a microphone around to you before you start asking your question, okay? Because we need to be able everybody to hear it, and we want to pick it up on our live stream. So we have our microphones ready back there. Excellent. So why don't we start right here in the second row.
Anybody in the witness protection program, because they are streaming this, you know. They're shooting this, just so you know.
Hi.
I'm serious. Look at everybody duck in the back row.
I'm glad that this is on video because my daughter's going to want to see it.
Excuse me, left?
AJ's Time Travelers.
My TV show.
Yeah. My daughter was the lead in that.
You're kidding. That's fabulous. No, people
Julie
don't know
sends
this.
her regards.
What's that?
Julie St. Clair, she sends her regards.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
No,
And
nobody knows I made a TV show, you know.
it was fabulous, but your grandchildren should be seeing it.
I own them all, thank you. But the interesting thing about that, I got so tired of watching Barney on television with my
Yes.
young kids. I think we all did. They made 12 episodes. I heard the money they kept showing them. So I came up with this idea of AJ's Time Travelers. And Rupert Murdoch had trouble with Fox at the time because Power Rangers were on. Mm-hmm. And the mothers were getting crazy because the brothers and sisters were beating each other up. So he says, Johnny, you got all these kids. How do you calm them down? I said, I don't. I got nannies. I don't do this stuff. He says, come up with something. So I came up with AJ's Time Travelers.
Yep.
Nobody knows this.
Knowledge is power.
Yep.
Was the theme.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, I had a 4.7 rating in children's show in the afternoon. I did it for 3 years. It was a huge success. You could go online and download them.
I need the DVDs, and I can't find DVDs. They're only on VHS.
Whatever. No,
Well,
but you can
maybe-
stream it now.
Yeah, there you go. Let's take
That's
another
a
question.
question I never thought I'd answer.
We have one right over here. Go ahead.
You mentioned working with Marlon Brando and James Caan. How was it working with Al Pacino?
I love Pacino. I don't know if you saw, I produced Any Given Sunday. Pacino was the coach. We had 38 movie stars in that movie, and Pacino was brilliant. Great, thank you. Good movie. Good movie. In fact, I'll be working with Pacino soon again, and De Niro, and I'm very proud to say Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, next question. We have one right here in the front row. Yep.
Right here?
Yep.
There you go.
You are amazing.
What's that?
You are amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I have an internet TV show.
Are you married?
No. I was married, but I'm not married now. My husband passed away. But I have an internet TV show, and I interview people all the time. You are absolutely great, but all your answers are incredible. Going back on everything you've sort of done and sitting back and listening and feeling and everything, what was your greatest moment that you felt that you really achieved something that was really, really fulfilled your heart?
You know, I'm so blessed because I've achieved so much.
I know it's more than one, but
What's that?
I said I know it's more than one.
Oh,
but
yeah, I know, but
one
right
particular.
now I'm doing a lot of charity work, and last year I fed the most homeless by myself. I raised $800,000.
Awesome.
I'm doing a lot of that now.
Now, here's to everybody in here, here's to the next 800,000.
Excuse me?
Here's to the next 800,000.
$800,000. St. Francis Food Pantry. In fact, they honored me this year at Chelsea Pier, which I was amazed at. Because 2,000 people showed up. And these are the things I really want to do now as I'm a mature man. And education is a big thing for
I
me.
think you were mature at 7.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have a question toward the back, looks like.
Hi. You said you were friendly with Frank Sinatra.
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering about the scene with the horse head in The Godfather. They said it was based on Frank Sinatra getting the part in From Here to Eternity.
Well,
Do you know if there's any truth to that rumor?
I'll tell you the truth about that. That horse scene with John Morley, who was supposed to be playing Old Man Cohen, was all a myth created by Mario Puzo, fortunately. Why Sinatra was so angry about having Frankie Fontaine be his character, because the mob did not get him that part. What I'm about to tell you who got him that part, you're not going to believe. Ava Gardner, after their divorce, Frank Sinatra was so depressed, he tried to kill himself. And thank God for his neighbors smelt the gas on 72nd Street, and she called the super. They knocked down the door. Frank's head was in a gas oven, and he damaged his vocal cords for 2 years. Anybody remembers his career, he couldn't sing, and she destroyed him. And he wanted to be in Here to Eternity. And they swore he'd never be in the movie. And this is a little risque, but we live in Vegas. Ava Gardner knew Cohen's wife. And she went to the wife and said, I got to ask you the strangest favor in the world. And nobody will tell you the story. I'm telling you, this is how it happened. She went to Cohen's wife and said, your husband has been trying to screw me for years. I owe Frank Sinatra a life. I'll go to Acapulco with your husband, with your blessings, for the weekend. He can have his way with me if he gives Sinatra the part. That's how Sinatra got the part. And he didn't want nobody to take the credit for that. That's amazing. I mean, that's why he was so angry.
We'll get to yours next. We have right in the middle back. Okay.
Hi, I'm from Chicago, so big
Hey, I
ups
love
to
people
Al
from
Capone.
Chicago. I'm in Chicago once a month now.
All right, well, call me. So, couple of things. I want to share this because I'm a lifelong movie lover. Just because the very first movie my parents
Can you
took
talk a
me to.
little louder? I could hear.
Absolutely. My very first movie that my parents took me to was to see The Godfather, which is kind of sad because I was a little kid, and the horses scene still traumatizes me now. But it started a lifelong love of movies for me. So thank you. But the second thing I want to ask you is, you mentioned Marilyn Monroe. I'm
Right.
curious. Can you share a little bit about your experience with Marilyn Monroe and how she made you a man?
Well, you know what happened? Well, you asked, I'm going to tell you. Anyway, I got caught when I was early on in my life as a messenger for Costello, and my route was the Upper West Side. And I was walking down Broadway, going to Toots Shor's, where they hung out in the afternoon, bringing Frank an envelope. And this car pulled up, and the two uniformed guys get out, and they were troon officers. I didn't know what a troon officer was. And they said, "What are you doing? How come you're not in school?" I said, "I don't go to school." He said, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 15. They said, "You're supposed to be in school till you're 16. So he writes me out a ticket. So I gave my mother and father's address. So now I go to Shaw, and I said, "I got a ticket." He looked at it, he started laughing. He said, "Well, I'll take care of it." So the next day I see him. He said, "I enrolled you in Wilford Academy. It's on top of Lindy's restaurant, so you don't have to, you don't have to break up your route. But go there in the morning, sign in, and you could sign out." Now, he told the wrong guy that. I got there 9 o'clock. There was 35 young girls learning how to do things. I started hanging out there. I'm the only guy, real guy. Everybody that was there really wasn't a guy, but I figured I hung out there. Then, as luck would have it, Mark Sinclair, who was a colorist for Clairol, major top guy, and Kenneth, who was Senator John F. Kennedy's wife's hairdresser. And then when she became president, they opened up Mark. He had his own salon. But at that time, they were working for Lily Dachet. So they said I could be a shampoo boy and give my last 100 hours working and getting tips. So I asked Costello. He said, "How many hours you got?" I said, I'll go 2 hours. He said, "Just do the 2 hours late afternoon after you pick up everything." So late afternoon, I didn't realize when all the society chicks and people like Marilyn Monroe got up. So the fourth head of hair, I'm going to shampoo, and they had it. I mean, this is a very high-end place. You know, they meet the maid, they take their clothes and put a schmuck on them. And when I got to them, they were laying in the sink already, looking at the ceiling. Now, I watched Some Like It Hot 100 times already. And I'm looking, I said, "This is Marilyn Monroe." I couldn't believe it. I'm 15 and a half years old, and I got Marilyn Monroe in there. So they had everything written on the card. She likes strong shampoo, this is the rinse, this, that. And I don't know. Then I had to touch the water, put it on the wrist for right temperature. Now, we all know the configuration of a shampoo basin. Do we all know the configuration? So now I'm standing over there, and let me how I can clean this up. I had my 3-piece set on her shoulder. And I start massaging her, and she's moaning like we're having sex. And I'm 15 and a half. So I got an erection. I must have been poking her in the ear. So now she started requesting me. I thought she liked the massage. So not too long after that, she requested me. They were hiding her out for a year in New York because she wanted to become known as a great actress. So they hid her out. And she said, they told me, go to the Waldorf and bring your shampoo kit. Marilyn requested you to be there at 5 o'clock. So this is okay, I'll go. So I go there, she's in a beautiful terry cloth robe. And I'd never been in a hotel room up until that time. And she lets me in, there's nobody in the room but her and I. I mean, a big suite, beautiful place. I never had room service. She said, "You have lunch yet?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, I'm about to order room service." I said, "Great, order it." And I'm sitting there waiting to wash hair. And next she comes in, she's ordering champagne. I never had a glass of champagne in my life. So now she pours a glass of champagne. I said, "I'm not old enough to drink." She says, "Who's going to tell anybody?" So now I have a glass of champagne. She said, "Well, I'm going to go take a bath." I said, "I'll leave and come back. You want me to come back in a half hour?" She said, No, come in the bathtub with me." I said, "What?" And she walks to the door of the bathroom, a double door, and she drops her robe, and I'm looking at Marilyn Monroe. And I'm saying, this is nuts. So now, again, I'm still embarrassed. She's getting in the tub with me. And I'm starting to get in the tub with my clothes on. She said, "No, take your clothes off." I thought maybe she wanted me to wash her hair in a tub. What do I know? The nicest thing I could say about that day, that was the Saturday afternoon. I left Monday morning. Use your own imagination.
Let's see, when we take a total of about two more, and then we'll go down and sign some books. How about right up here in the, you still want? We're not, in a minute.
Ciao, Gianni. Venica. So I happen to have your autograph on a shirt on the wall in my home. And I have a
Okay.
photograph.
Did you
of
have
it.
the shirt on or off?
Well, the shirt is in a frame. My husband went to this antiquity store here in Vegas years ago because he knows I'm a big Godfather fan. And they had this beautifully framed tuxedo shirt from The Godfather, allegedly. It's authenticized with papers, though. And every cast member on The Godfather has signed this shirt, and you're one of them. And your photograph is right next to it. And I'm wondering if you'd like to take a peek at it, if you remember signing this shirt. And the shirt was brought to the cast by an extra on the set, who I don't know. But to me, it looks like the shirt that Al Martino wore in the movie.
Are you going to come downstairs, show me the shirt?
I'm going to show. Well, I'm going to. I have it right here. You want
Well,
to?
I
Well,
can't-
you can't see it
When
from
we
here,
go down.
but we'll look at it.
Yeah, we'll look at it down there.
All right.
Sure.
So everybody can look
No,
at it.
I know I don't have it
Did you
here.
bring the shirt with you?
No, it's in a
Why
frame.
not?
It's in a frame. No, it's in a frame under glass.
Oh,
Yeah. But you can. But do you remember doing anything like that?
Well, thank you for remembering the shirt.
Well, we're going to bring the microphone
wait.
to you. So let's bring one up right in
We
the
got to bring a
front.
microphone to you.
Right here in the first row.
I got to tell you my life with Gianni Russo.
What's that?
My
We're going to ask
learning
questions.
life
We're
with
going to be sure
you-
you're asking questions.
I met him in '77 at the Hilton Hotel,
Right,
and we became friends for 42 years.
right.
And we have always been close, and I thank you so much for the job as a DJ at your club. But I want to say nothing but the best things about you because you've always been incredible to me and my husband, Tony Gibson, which adores you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Why don't we wrap it up with a question back here, and then we'll be done.
Thank you. Mr. Russo, when you filmed the scene prior to The Godfather's birthday in Godfather 2, when you were introduced to Connie by Sonny,
Right.
when was that filmed? And could you talk a little bit about that process? Was that later? Was that after how did that work?
No, that was 3 years later. They're not allowed to use a piece of footage. They have to, if you're going to enter it to another film. When you sign me on, they signed me on to The Godfather. So they can't use something from The Godfather in Godfather 2. It has to be reshot. Fortunately, I made more money for that one day than I did for the 3 months in the original film. And that's why Brando wasn't there. There was a lot of people that wouldn't come because Brando was so mad at Paramount because when he only got $250,000 at that time, which was a little bit of money for this guy, and they topped him out at $1 million, which he thought the movie would never make $1 million. When it went beyond that, they wouldn't give him another nickel. So he wanted $1 million to come for that day for that scene because it was his birthday. That's what that whole meeting was about. But it worked without it. But no, that happened then, 3 years later, and crazy times, fortunately. But I'm blessed. I mean, look, here I am 50 years after this book came out, I have a life from it. It's crazy.
And we'll wrap it up right there. We're going to go down and sign books here in a minute, so I encourage everybody to follow us down to the retail store. In the meantime, please thank Gianni Russo.
Thank all of you. Thank you. You all could have been at the hockey game, I know that.